Sniper C.1. Sniper C.1. So, what I want to talk about is something where the gun tubers get all emotional because they're trying to sell you something. And this ties into the last video with enemies at the gates. C, solidified, established experience. So resumes oftentimes will show some of that. I went to sniper school quite some time ago, and some of you noted in the comments, Sodic, well, that's dating ourselves, isn't it? It's like, yeah, because I think it changed to CIFSIC around 2007. And remember, I was there for a while in the service. So I saw the transition and I was part of it. I've been shooting grid-based reticles since 2003 or 2004. Why is that important? Well, look what's happened. How many manufacturers offer the Trimmer 3 reticle now? Well, quite a few of high quality stuff. How many militaries are using it? Now, of course, there's people with a dog in that hunt that design reticles or trying to sell you Chinesium or budget, saying that their stuff is just as good or even better, but they fail to understand the use. And so the system I talked about before is MUMS, manufacture, use, maintenance, sustainable systems. What is your use? Your use is different. Now, you don't have to look far in the internet to find people griping about red dot versus LPVO versus VPO versus MVPO, et cetera, et cetera. Context is key to help you see. And this is a fact, and it doesn't care about feelings. Remember who I am. I'm an equal opportunity employer of all weapon systems. My favorite sniper rifle is 58 caliber, has 100 pounds of recoil, and has iron sights. So I don't really care. I'm not selling you a brand or a concept other than using discernment. Discernment for what works for you. And so every human eyeball is different. Many accomplished shooters, not all, but many accomplished shooters, or the snipers of history, have really keen eyesight. That's been a trait. Not all, but many do, because that gives you a distinct advantage to discern alignment and detect targets. I mean, there's no argument with that, right? Well, having had an injury to my primary eye, I had to learn to shoot with my other strong hand years ago. And so I know, because I have dramatically different vision between two different eyes, and the one that's hurt the most is my primary side, my dominant. So I can just close one eye and open the other and see a completely different picture. The easiest way to explain it, because I'm not going to go into the numbers of diagnosis of what my vision was compared to what it is now, is I essentially, from discernment wise, I used to be able to see somewhere close to what I see now at 3x. So you don't need a 3-power magnifier if everything you see is already in that type of vision. The eye of the eagle, if you will. Yeah, I mean, it helps. Now, what I've noticed, because, if you have astigmatism or cataracts or eye injury, some things are harder to make out than others. A floating dot, depending on if that dot is illuminated or not, may be totally different for you. I've found that a thick chevron helps. Also with speed, a sight, and you find this with like the big dots, the lollipops, or the old idea of a big iron or a ivory or gold tip front for dangerous game rifles in some type of rear partridge style sight, because it's faster. The EOTech, which has an outer ring, not much different than this, is extremely fast. However, depending on your vision, and the way the emitter is, the center dot sometimes for some people kind of looks like that. It's like a starburst. And I can tell you, depending on the manufacturer of that optic and even model number, some dots to me with my vision will look like this starburst type thing. Other ones will seem very crisp. And that's model by model. And because my vision is different than your vision, and your vision is different than mine, and that's okay. I'm not trying to sell you an optic or even what you should buy. I don't want you to be bamboozled by the negative influencers that you have to have this, this, or this. The fact of the matter is that magnified optics help you see the target better, right? Like, which I'm of the camp opinion, based off of my everyday use and everyday carry. For homestead use, CQB is not your norm. And within CQB distances, a white light and iron sights works fine, has worked fine for a long time. And iron sights, guess what? They're pretty darn durable. They're more durable than anything with glass in it. Especially when you take in salt spray, snow from a snowmobile, you fall off into the mud. I mean, iron sights are proven. And there's many people that are saying you don't need iron sights on your guns. It's like, it's still a myopic thing. Or you don't need lights because there'd be plenty of light around. Well, they don't live where I do. It's always someone superimposing their context on you. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to help you see what you need, which may not be what I need, because I realize the fact that your vision is most likely different than mine. And if you wear glasses, now we're introducing another lens. If we go from a red dot to a 3-power magnifier, now we have twice the amount of lenses to maintain. In a muddy, snowy environment, bad idea. It's just harder. It's twice as hard to maintain that clarity because snow gets into everything. Surf gets into everything. Mud gets into everything. You know, people, they poo-poo scope caps. It's like, when's the last time you low crawled in the mud with your stuff? Well, maybe you never will. That's fine. You know, you got your drop leg Safariland holster without a hood for your red dot sight, and you're riding on the back of a snowmobile, and then you got to pull it up, and the red dot sight's full of snow. Well, if that's your primary, sucks to be you at that point, right? So we want a system that can navigate all of our use. When we go through mums, it's like, what's the idea that you need whatever? What's your use? What's the maintenance, and what's a sustainable system? If I can't see the target, it's really hard for me to hit it. And some people would do way better with a low power variable optic on 1.1 or even 2x or 3x, even at room clearing distance, than a red dot sight. What? Because only hits count. You can't afford to part the hostage's hair. That is called a miss in my book, and you just shot the hostage. Right? You can't break the line. Now, whatever enabler helps you take the shot. Many people, they're transferring their speed requirement on other people. Well, maybe you're just slow. Maybe you don't have the training. Maybe you need the discipline to know when not to take the shot. You know, I think for any type of defensive home weapons system, it's a really good idea to have a light as part of that system. Now, not all weapon systems you can mount a light, so there's a training involved. Trying to hold a flashlight with one hand and shoot a 454 Casull may not be easy for you. You may not be able to handle a big recoiling system one-handed, or your other strong hand. It may be easier to have something with the rail and the light attached to it because you're going to be in your skivvies and you don't have time to, okay, distance times speed math between you and the threat. How many concentric rings of security, alarms, dogs, neighbors, etc., did you put in place to give you time? Well, time, you know, is one of those things that is a measuring stick in shooting, right? That's how competitions are won and lost. What else? Accuracy. Well, anything that can give you the edge in either one of those may be worth investing in, as long as it has the reliability to be there every time. When I started into the sniper genre, if you will, our issued guns, the XM107, that were SR25s, that were literally, the manual will tell you, 168 grain is what the federal gold medal match, because guess what? M118LR wasn't out yet. I was thinking about the genesis of when I first was introduced to a Christmas tree style reticle, and it was a Swarovski fixed 10 power with the 50 cal reticle. I think it went out to 2000, and it was like this. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because at the time, there was a certain amount of error with our fixed 10 power optics dialing the turrets. And the system itself had some institutionalized paradigms that were bad. One is it had, we had very thick, which were fast, outside stadia lines, mil dots. In the Army circle, in the Marine Corps, they're oval. That was a whole nother debate that happened during that time. But if you were between dots, you were holding off in space, you had to like visualize versus having a measurement, a scale. Whereas something that has, 10th marks, you could see. Now, a circle within a circle within a circle helps draw the eye to it. That's why the EOTech reticle works good for a lot of people, because it in low light conditions, and you can see that kind of with this target, this draws your eye to the center, and the spatial relationship here between the grids and the diamonds helps you line up as long as this target's straight when you put it on the board, right? The outer rings help, whether that's an aperture sight, whether it's a reticle design. And what you see with a lot of the designs now, they have a thicker reticle to help draw your eye. Oh, it's more straight. Draw your eye to the center. The old school sniper optics that were low power oftentimes have what was referred to as a German post. So it was a thick post with a tip on it. That was it, right? So you could line things up right there. These systems have worked. They have worked. And what's happened is it's got better and better. The problem when you start dialing is you're introducing the possibility for mechanical error. That's why grid-based systems have come to the top, because now it's like playing Battleship. And I don't know how many times I've heard people online say, oh, that's so busy. Just because you don't understand how to use it doesn't mean it doesn't work. I mean, this has all kinds of information. This is a reticle way before its time, the H102. The head size fast range finding, leads for snaps and movers. One of the issues that you have with a lot of reticles that are designed is that they don't have marks here on this plane, which that's terrible if you're trying to do movers or snaps and do a wind adjustment and you're dialed to that range. And what I mean by that, and I've talked to certain reticle designers about this misstep. I go, this is where I hate your reticle. They're like, ah. I go, I hate it because you think, they might have a chevron and a dot here and a dot here. Well, that dot's because every person runs 8.6 miles an hour. That is not true. That's a flat range theatrical mathematical rarity when you have, fit Marines down in the pit holding up, a 9-inch, 1 meter high target and are walking or running on a straight thing in the pit to shoot. That's gamesmanship for that specific target. The same thing happens with gamesmanship between, okay, well, we've got 18 inches or 1 meter high built into the reticle. That can help. Well, I would say that if you're going to do group things, group hunting, if it's legal where you are, if we are using the same ruler, it makes it easier for all of us to see, and it increases our speed. You find this in field artillery, you find this in mortars, the gun to target line translation with the whiz wheel, those of you 18 Bravos or 11 Charlies out there. Yeah, you're translating what you see to, and FDC's translating what you see and then putting it to the gun. Yeah, because of the angle's a little bit different. And so we need to be able to call the same thing. I would say in many civilian contexts, it's either hunting or it's avoiding the threat. And if it's any type of group style dynamic, it's really helpful if we have the same measurement. If we're all running mils versus, I think this is like inches of angle, which is different than MOA. You got shooters MOA too, which is different. So if I have mils and I say, oh, it's 7 mils right, put your reticle in the center of the barn, it's 7 mils right. It changes the dialogue and speeds up communication. Very few people think of a optic as a communication device. It 100% is. Whether it's a spotting scope or now with grid-based reticles, has been around for over 2 decades, so please get with the program. If it's just you, it doesn't matter because you don't have to communicate information to anyone else. It's so much easier in any type of communication to use the same ruler, whether it be mils or MOA. As long as we're using the same ruler, it's easy. The gauge I told people about in the last video was a standard, an accuracy standard. Well, of course, people that think like an armorer or think like, a machinist are going to think gauge has their own myopia to it. Well, what type of gauge can we use to evaluate the shooter, the ammunition, and the weapon system at the same time? Well, the target. Only hits count. A 10-inch circle at 300 meters is more than doable with anyone who is a rifleman, a standard, to hit. Now, can you make it smaller than that? Sure, if you have, is your system up to it? But if you're not up to it, the nut behind the gun, well, okay. You got to be a rifleman first. A soldier armed with a man skilled in the use of a rifle. It's the nut behind the gun. You could have a $4,000 sniper rifle and not have the nut behind the gun tight, and you don't have a system. I want to be able to evaluate the system, solidified, established experience that, hey, I know that I'm on, it's not the gun, it's not the ammunition. And that's one of the biggest hurdles as a firearms instructor is to get people to they go straight to blaming the gun. You say it's the India, not the arrow. Well, that's the first basic. It is the India, not the arrow, but it's the arrow, not the bow. Anyone who's killed stuff with traditional archery knows it's the arrow, it's not the bow. What? The arrow matters. You could have the, a $6,000 rifle and put garbage ammo in it and not be able to hit the broadside of a barn. Yeah. So what's the solidified, established experience? Many people that haven't shot competition or haven't been in the hunting fields don't realize that the reliability and accuracy, consistency of the ammunition is everything. It's everything. And it's like people have their special bullets for this special scenario that they've never been in, and the zero is completely different than what they shoot all the time. Well, what does your budget allow? It's better to have a hit. Now we're looking at penetration and performance. Those are the two things we look at our criteria. But what's the accuracy standard? What type of reticle are you using? Some reticles lend themselves to multi-use more so than others. Some optics, like variable powered optics, do you want to shoot a 2-inch by 9-inch sage rat? Well, that changes the math, right? Maybe you have, you're visually impaired, right? Okay, well then maybe not listen to the person that says you need a red dot when you need a low power variable optic. I don't know. Your vision, it's how you see it. And very few trainers are going to use a prism to actually see even what your sight picture is, let alone, it's not like we can transmit exactly what our eyeball is seeing. Some of you are colorblind, and there's different types of color blindness. So the difference between this color, and this color, which one stands out for you? There's some companies that decided to make a blue illuminated reticle, and that's light spectrum helps certain people with their vision impairment. That's fine. The only thing I would say is if we're going to be a team, our critical points of agreement means that we need to use the same ruler. It would be terrible to try to build a house and one person's calling out centimeters and the other one's calling out inches. That's confusion. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You got to be a rifleman first. Well, Appleseed is a great gauge, a standard. Gauge is a standard, by the way. Just look it up in English. And I know our language sucks, and everyone emotes off of, they look for the trigger word so then they can sharpshoot. Well, go make your own video as a response. That'd be great. So I can sharpshoot that. That'd be awesome. I don't care what you use. I've been shooting grid-based reticles well over 20 years. Yeah, in multiple conditions from the hunting fields to combat fields. And I can tell you there's a reason why so many militaries have adopted them. They work. And certain reticles like the H102 was way before its time. Does it have some issues? Yeah. But you have to think of when it was. Now, are you going to win an egg shoot with a thick center? Well, that's hard to do. Maybe the way you hold, and that's one of the things with where a chevron style reticle is good, is you have an infinite aiming point here, which essentially you can do depending on your zero and your training with any type. So let's say you have a big, thick lollipop style, you do a 6 o'clock hold of the target. And so what that means is you're setting the target, if it's a circle like a bullseye, you're just setting the target on top of it, which is a different training thing than a lot of military people do because they're looking for center mass. Well, center mass on a 1 meter high target gives you a lot of error this way and this way. If you take a horizontal target, you have less error. Something with 4 legs, right? That's less error. Now, left and right wind-wise, what do you end up doing? You hit it in the butt or you hit it too far forward. A lot of people hit stuff in the guts instead of hitting it where they need to. The zone of being able to see it, it's like the T zone in a person is quite different, or the T box. What's your degree of accuracy? What are you trying to hit? Well, do you want shut down right now? I don't know. Like, what's the context? It's different for military and police snipers than it is a civilian generally. But the fact is that the rifleman's important. The rifleman has to be there. If the rifleman's not there, it doesn't really matter what the system is. In one of the tests, the gauges I like to do is the 13-shot redcoat target from Appleseed. Yeah, I think it's great. It's 13 shots. It tells you where you are. Clear Morgan shingle. It's actually a really big square if you're a sniper. Instead of doing it 25, do it at 100 meters. Well, you're a sniper, aren't you? Right? That changes the math. Now the standard's up because, lives are on the line. That's an excellent way. One of the things that we teach for the police snipers is to use a 1-inch pasty on a 3x5 card, write the date, time, loading, system, etc., the complete system out, because later on that may come into question if there's a deflection due to glass or something like that. It helps them fight the next fight later on with prosecution or the legal battle. I live in the real world. There's not a weapons-free zone. It doesn't work that way. Every bullet has a lawyer attached to it. So you got to be darn certain that you're in fear for your life and that you're not going to hurt your valuables. Well, it'd be like some people, if they don't have their glasses on, they can't even see. Right? Well, then step 1 is put your glasses on. And for some people, the way their vision is, a red dot sight, an LPVO, a MPVO, a VPO may be exactly what, or iron sights. I don't know. And the only way we can tell is under accountability and pressure and training and the hits. The hits under duress and stress. That's the gauge, that's the caliber. And solidified established experience will tell you the more you do it, that you train harder than the reality, and then it makes it easier. It just makes it easier. And remember, I'm an equal opportunity employer of all weapon systems. I don't care about your choices of brands. And yes, I'm a grandfather, so okay. Right? Okay. Don't be caught and bamboozled by the charlatans of commercialism that are trying to, ride on the curtails of someone else's street creds and call it as like they know the secret knowledge. No, there's no secret to it. It's just what the hits are. And like people are like, oh, well, you need to stop slapping the trigger. Well, you don't know how much arthritis I have. All that matters is hits, right? What if I pull the trigger with my toes? There's people that can do that with no arms. You're going to gripe about form, or you're going to look at the target? The target's what matters. That's where the solidified established experience is. And then you go from there. If it helps you, not me, if it helps you do the standard that you want, excellent. Excellent. The standard's what's important. It's not a brand. Now, there's certain systems like grid-based reticles that have stood the test of time over 20 plus years. Multiple militaries have adopted them. And there's been a gigantic change in training from, MOA-based turrets with BDCs and mil dot reticles to what we have now. You know how many mils I want? I want all of them. Why? Because if I'm using it as a communication device, I can communicate to outside entities more information more accurately. It's busy. Well, if you put the magnification low and you turn on the illumination, now you have what? Something very similar to the old post. The thickness helps draw your eye to it. I'm not selling these reticles. They're only offered like one optic. Now, a couple tweaks, it could be perfect for 90%. Is it now? No, there's no perfect thing. So you're going to use what my late mentor Ron Hood called the rule enough. NUFF, the rule enough. Close enough, fair enough, good enough, accurate enough. For you, that could be a variable power optic with 45-degree backup iron sights and a flashlight. Because that'll be great for the raccoon and the chicken coop. And you may have to have frangibles because of your shots available. If you don't live in the middle of nowhere, remember, every bullet has a lawyer attached to it. So even your ammunition selection is based off of what? This thing called your 90%. Your 90% starts with how you can even see. If you have solidified established experience with America's rifle because you were a soldier, maybe that's the way you should go. And all the AK guys are like, oh, dude, I've killed elk with AKs. So slow your roll. Remember, I'm an equal opportunity employer of all weapon systems. People will moat, that's not an elk gun. Well, what, 30 yards? You know how many big bovines are killed every year with 22 Magnum? Well, if you have the discipline, because you understand this concept, and listen carefully, because this has so many layers to it. I've been teaching this for years and people don't even know what it is. Shooter's personal maximum effective range with focus and control. It's also the 7 areas of life that you need to focus on. What is your shooter's personal maximum effective range with focus and control? If the target's out of focus, you're never going to hit it. What helps you focus? I don't know. We could figure it out. We could figure it out together if you just want to spend the time in training. But I can't care about your training more than you do, and that's a fact. I hope this finds you well. Remember where it's coming from. I'm an equal opportunity employer of all weapon systems. My favorite sniper rifle's 58 caliber with iron sights, 100 pounds of recoil, and it's a front stuffer. So I don't care, man. I don't care. Sometimes all you need is a headlamp and a good, proven system for your use. I don't know. Run Mom's out. Hopefully this finds you well. Your access to certain mentors and instructors is a short window. Maybe. We'll see you soon. Shalom.